everyone. My name is Andrew Jones. I'm the VP of Property Member Optimization over at Truck Parking Club. And I'm joined by Mac McCall. He is actually the owner of Gold Lot Truck Parking out in Macon, Georgia, off I-75. And he's been through it, man. I mean, I've been an owner-operator for a couple of years. He's been an owner-operator here for a couple of years as well. And really want to go ahead and kind of get into what happened, right? Getting into truck parking development, owner operating, and then optimizing his yard. So, Mac, if you'd like to go ahead and just introduce yourself to everybody here, feel free, my friend. We'll get
Thanks,
started.
Andrew. Yeah, Mac McCall. I'm the owner and operator of Gold Lot Truck Parking down in Macon, Georgia, right on I-75. This is my first truck parking venture. My background, I'm a real estate developer by trade, and was coming out of the car wash business. Started a car wash brand back in 2018, and grew that to about 65 locations, and have kind of a private equity partner running that show now. So that business is still up and running, called Caliber Car Wash. And, I'm primarily a real estate developer, building mostly retail properties across the country, mostly the Southeast. But yeah, was shown the truck parking business by a friend of mine, and being a real estate developer and an expert in permitting, and liking businesses that don't have employees, was intrigued. And yeah, we opened Gold Lot almost about a year ago to the date. And it's been a good process. It's been obviously a little challenging with where the freight recession has led us this far, so we're not quite hitting our expectations, but revenue's growing every month, and the future's looking bright.
Right on, man. Well, kind of take me back to over a year ago. It might even be 2 years ago, right? When you looked at this plot of land and you went to develop it. Like, what were you thinking, and what particularly, like, working with the municipality? Did you have to do anything like that? I know I personally talk to a lot of new developers that are looking to list on Truck Parking Club, and they ask me these questions all the time, and I'd love to hear, what you have to say.
Well, I think that's where kind of my background and expertise in retail and real estate development is a bonus. Obviously, we all know the challenges historically with iOS and truck parking. NIMBY, nobody wants it in their backyard, but everybody wants the goods from Amazon. So we really focused on finding. Luckily, the site that we worked on, we did have to go through some minor rezoning, but luckily, this site in Macon, is in a trucking heavy corridor. So we're surrounded by distribution centers. I think the largest and busiest Amazon warehouse is directly across the street. We've got a Love's on the other side of the exit from us that's very busy. We've got a Quick Trip that we actually share a driveway with next door to us. And there's just trucks moving around this area. And luckily, no houses, right? So that's usually your pushback's going to be from the neighbors that don't want the noise, or what they consider as unsavory uses around their houses. But luckily, that was one of the reasons this property did appeal to us, because it's expensive to rezone property, and it can be expensive if you don't get your rezoning. So try to find a flat piece of land. I mean, what people don't understand with real estate development, the biggest variable, is site work. What you don't know about it. So the more dirt you got to push around, the more storm water you have to put in, the more expensive it's going to get. So you just got to really focus on finding. We found a site that was flat and required minimal site work. So that was one of the things that intrigued us.
Interesting. Yeah, and as you kind of go back, the timelines, right? I talked to a lot of different developers, from building 20-acre yards down to like just a couple acres, right? Or even sometimes smaller. Did you hit all your timelines? What were kind of the snags? I'm just kind of curious there.
Yeah, I mean, so obviously when you're just pushing dirt around and putting pavement down, your biggest timeline issues are going to be your weather. Did you get a good run of dry weather, which we did, luckily. And then you need that for your site work and for your paving. So we got lucky with that. And then the other delays you have in this construction development just comes down to permitting in cities, right? How long does it take me to get my building permit? And then how long does it take for me to get my final approvals from the city? And we actually had a unique delay on this one more than anything. We were done about 60 days before we opened, but we couldn't get internet to the site. So that's one thing that we worked on. We thought we'd get enough timeline to do that, but for our cameras and for our pay stations, we needed to have internet, and that was a delay. We even looked at Starlink, and we're almost we actually bought the Starlink, and we're ready to hook it up. And then the cable company said, "Hey, we finally got your fiber out there." So it's little delays like that. But luckily, like I said, being a developer, we had a good checklist of what we needed and stayed ahead of it, and just sometimes with the municipalities and some of these utilities, things outside of your control. But as long as you're ahead of them and you're mitigating them, it helped out a lot. So, and
Mm-hmm.
obviously, we're trying to offer a premium paved lot. A lot of folks just throw gravel down and crush rock and call it a day. That's cheaper and faster, but it's not the same experience for the truckers. So
No, absolutely. And I'll go ahead to anybody listening. We'll go ahead and make sure the link to a site is so you want to check it out. You absolutely can check it out. And actually, to your same point about the utility, that was actually one of my hangups 3 years ago. Was AT&T needed to actually just drill a landline just
yeah,
to get a landline in there to my site. So I had to use wireless internet there for a while, which it was primarily for my access control. So thank God I got the truck parking club access controls now, and I know you do, which we can kind of get into here in a little bit. Um, but when you first open your lot, so kind of moving from development into operations, so kind of give us like your thoughts when you first opened, like what was kind of your game plan, and then let's go ahead and just talk about the first like 3 or 4 months. Just kind of
yeah.
curious your
So
mindset.
yeah, so right. So we opened up, and it's I learned this in the car wash business too. Is you expect people to come screaming in there as soon as they see it and open it up, and and it's funny, things trickle at the beginning, right? You put together. We had a billboard on the interstate, very visible. We had a pretty good marketing plan put together with geo search and everything else, but geofencing. But what I came to realize quickly is that the truck driver is a different animal. A lot of times, it's tough to target your marketing because people aren't carrying the same loads, the same distance every day, and there's folks coming in and out of the market every day. So we were slow to get really rolling, and but we've increased revenue every month, and obviously Truck Parking Club's been a great help with that. But yeah, I mean it's identifying how you find your customer. We maximize our signage,
Hmm.
and I think word spreads pretty quick once people realize you got a premium lot, and what you deliver, the value that you're, because it's not easy to get people to pay $25 to park overnight, and you have to offer a value that your let's call it competitors aren't offering. I'll
Hmm.
drive 5 more minutes down the road if I know I've got a plus paved lot right next to a quick trip, secure, cameras lit up nicely. I'll make that extra 5 minutes. I'll pay that $25 because I feel value as a customer.
Interesting. Yeah, and actually, as we move away from the first couple of months, right, there was kind of like an inflection point. So August 2025, Evan, our co-founder and CEO, calls you up, and he's just like, "Hey, man, we're seeing that if you go ahead and drop your price by even just a 10-20%, we're seeing that that can go ahead and kind of increase the occupancy at your site." And one stat that I pulled up was I think around that time we were generating about $1,500 a month, and now you're looking at around 12K in revenue
Yeah,
per month,
yeah.
which is a huge jump. So I'd love for you to kind of talk about that. Any kind of like aha moment, or just what did you feel about that?
Yeah, I mean, so our whole business model was targeting daily parking. So obviously, you multiply $25 times 30 days a month. It's a lot higher than if you're getting $200, $225 a month from a monthly user. So that we realized quickly that there just wasn't as much demand for that daily parker down here. We're kind of far outside of Atlanta. Atlanta's got a ton of parking issues, but as you start trickling further south and get south of Macon, you can find some more free parking available. But yeah, so when we decided, we talked to Evan, and we figured out that let's get some monthlies in here. Or in weeklies. That's going to really help you start to get some baseline revenue. Let's start to get some baseline revenue. Truck Parking Club has such a far reach. It's funny when I get calls about monthly parking and direct people to Truck Parking Club. There's a lot
Mhm.
of drivers that still don't even know about Truck Parking Club, which is really surprising because you guys do such a plus job branding and marketing. But yeah, once we were able to kind of to get the customers trickling in our monthly, like I said, word spreads. We got a little lucky. We had a competitor or another lot down the street that got leased up to a national freight user, and so there was a little bit of a scramble in the market for people looking for some monthlies that we benefited from, luckily. But yeah, I mean, we continue to see revenue increase because the word gets out. We've got great reviews on Truck Parking Club, and just offering that monthly and weekly option has really helped us out and drive revenue to the site. So it's been good.
Yeah, and you made a really good point there, which is like just being in the arena. Like I think of Theodore Roosevelt, the man in the arena, right? Where it's like you just have to be there in order to go ahead and take advantage of the current business that might just go away. And that happened to me, gosh, almost a year ago. Hey, a large fracking company, they needed to go ahead and put a bunch of stuff in a yard that wasn't 10 acres, but it was a couple acres. And I was able to help them out with that. And obviously, that you were able to go ahead and do the same, which is, I mean, wonderful to hear. And after 1 year in operation, what are your thoughts about this business? Like, do you feel like you're going to go ahead and expand more? I mean, what's kind of the future of your
Yeah,
business?
we have big dreams of grandeur, just like we did in the car wash business. We blew that from zero car washes to 65 in 4 or 5 years. So we know how to scale things up, and that was the plan before day one. But look, if you're not coming out cash flow positive after paying your debt, you can't grow. So we're very disciplined about it. We're not quite there yet because the cost to build a brand new A+ quality lot's expensive. And so until this thing hit a revenue threshold where we're making money in good return, we're probably not going to go to the second lot yet. But if the returns keep coming in and growing steady, every month like they are, and maybe with this freight recession pops and we get a lot more drivers out on the road here, then demand. Luckily, down in the southeast, it continues to grow, and so we're just seeing more distribution. And Florida's getting tough, so a lot of the drivers, can't get too far north and don't want to risk going to Atlanta. So we feel like we're in a good spot. But yeah, I mean, if this thing continues to grow, we would be open to it. But it all comes down to money. If the numbers don't pencil on a new site, and we don't feel it's a strong enough site, and the drivers aren't there, we won't grow. So I mean, we would like to grow. So don't get me wrong.
No, and that's another good point that you bring up. I mean, I'll have multiple pro forma calls, projections, like, hey, just kind of advisory, consulting kind of, conversations with people that are just getting into the business, whether they come from a background similar to you or whether it's just like a mom and pop, hey, I'm pulling my 401k money to like start a site. And
Yeah,
sometimes the conversation is, looking at the numbers, it doesn't make sense, right? So go in the same market and find a better site, that works for you and what you're trying to do. So
yeah,
I'm
yeah.
glad you
And,
bring
that,
that.
and that's the challenge, right? I know there's serious demand around Atlanta and Lakeland, Florida, and Orlando, Florida. The problem is the land is so expensive; it almost makes it very challenging to kind of break in. And then if you say, okay, well, I'll buy a piece of land in south of Macon, well, then you've got a bunch of free parking at the truck stop around you. So it's a very interesting dynamic to kind of find that sweet spot. And and like I said, interest rates are still comparatively high where they were a couple years ago. So money is more expensive. So I think, site work is expensive too. So it's just the numbers all have to line up. And one thing I think a lot of people, may not understand too is it's not, you got to be ready to work and manage. I'm the only one that answers calls in the middle of the night. If they're not calling truck parking club, there's an issue with a gate or something, or I've had everything from the police trying to get in for fights. I've had trucks leaking stuff on the lot that's some kind of chemical, or I've had trucks where somebody can't find a driver or the trailer was stolen or something like that. So there's issues you got to deal with, and luckily
Mhm.
truck parking club helps out with that a lot. But yeah, it's some management to it as well, as you know.
Yeah. Yeah, no, 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 absolutely. I mean, like, and I'd love to actually ask you about your experience with the access controls, which,
Yeah,
I mean, gates like to break. Whether it's you
yeah,
have the best access controls in the world or whether you have the worst, I mean, gates always break. So it's
yeah.
always just good to make sure you have some sort of SOP for the actual gate itself. But going back to that, access controls, how's your experience been with our access controls? I
I'll tell
mean,
you what. I mean, so when we first started working with Truck Parking Club, we had a barcode system where drivers would get a code on their phone and they would have to use it on the pay station. Once we got the access controls installed, I mean, you want to talk about hassle free. It just
yeah.
makes the driver's life easy. It makes our life easy. I mean, it's been a game changer, and it's a technology that for you guys is a winner.
Yeah, no, same. I mean, I think I'm going to take one of my customers' trucks and rip out my old barcode system. I mean, because
Yeah.
just the amount of problems that they would have just kind of just blew my mind.
Yeah, and
Um,
it kind of works just like, I mean, look, there's this thing called My Queue for your car. When you go home, like my Tesla has it built into the car, and it's just reading the digital phone on the car. As soon as I get by my garage door at home, it opens up automatically, and it's the exact same function with you guys with the opener, and it makes the truckers and the customers' life so much easier.
Right on, man. And actually, you brought up one other point I'd like to go ahead and bring up as well is on the optimization, right? The baseline. I never
Yeah,
used to allow weeklies ever at my
yeah,
site. It was monthly, it was daily, and no weeklies. But it wasn't until customer care from Truck Parking Club reached out to me over a year ago and said, "Hey, this guy wants to book for a week. Do you have it?" Yeah. And I feel
yeah,
like it's just more of a hey, we just got to get the word out. It's a brand new asset class, so there's a lot of unknowns. So with everything that you learned this last year and let's say you have unlimited funds, best interest rates, how would you go ahead and move forward with the next site? Like
yeah. I
knowing
mean,
what you
so
know
look,
today.
yeah. So I mean, from anything we do, whether we work with national retailers, we did it with the car wash company. We're using data to find sites, right? So we're trying to find sites that we know have parking issues based on, we've used some other apps to kind of determine where there's always congestion. We can drive the market, find out where, you know, um, the issues that there's always parking issues, where the off ramps are always full. And yeah, using data to find the site. So we've identified a couple markets, in the southeast that we know have parking issues. We've actually have a couple, you know, lots identified that we can jump on when we're ready. So, but yeah, for us, it's just using the data that's available out there and just making sure your data is speaking that there's a demand here because you don't want to get stuck building a lot in the middle of nowhere and spending, $3 or $4 million and nobody shows up.
Yeah, and to that point, what do you think the future of this business looks like? I mean, just
Look,
like
yeah,
5, 10 years down the road.
yeah. I mean, look, you know, end of the day, people still want goods, right? Trucking's not going anywhere. You know, stuff has to move around, right? And I've heard people the biggest when I was raising some money, the biggest question I got, well, what about electric trucks or robot trucks or self driving trucks, whatever that may be.
Yeah.
I've heard Brad Jacobs. He's saying the cost of these things are so high, the whole fleet's not switching over for any time quickly because the cost for an electric truck or a self driving truck is so astronomically high compared to your diesel truck. It ain't going to happen for at least 10 years, if not longer, right? But at the
Mhm.
end of the day, they got to park those trucks somewhere too, right? And so,
Yeah.
and they got to charge those trucks somewhere too. So being right on the interstate where we're at, I feel really good about it. I feel good about the industry as well. There's going to be demand, and if you just look at a curve from 20 years ago to where we are today, the number of trucks on the road, it's only getting worse. Luckily, in the southeast, it's a little bit growing more, so there's that helps too. But yeah, I mean, it's like it's long tail of it's still got a long way to go.
Nice. Well, I ask this question to every podcast guest that I have, and it's who do you look up to and why? Living, dead, whoever, just as a piece of advice to anybody else that might be listening or wanting to learn a little bit more about Mac.
You know, I look up to in certain ways a lot of uh, successful entrepreneurs who have taken the leap and done stuff to grow stuff. So a lot of my mentors are very successful, mostly real estate developers or people that have started a business, whether it's insurance, banking, etc. It's not easy taking that leap and starting a business and growing a business. And the people that I mentor as well, you know, I try to drive that into them. Always be open to learning. Always, ask questions to people that have done it before. You're not doing something nobody else has done before, so make sure you find people who have done something you want to do and ask them questions. They love to talk about it. I mean, I look for that for people that I interview or I say make sure that they're aggressively calling me back and asking questions. You're not going to call me back. How are you going to do stuff and grow in this in anything that you do? So I mean, yeah, you just gotta like I said, I look up to people that have really had success in business and been successful, and I try to surround myself with them all the time.
Right on. Well, Mac, I really appreciate your time. We really appreciate you as a property member. I mean, even before even meeting you, and even before I came to Truck Parking Club and kind of seeing your growth. I mean, it's awesome to see. I love the way that your site's set up. I love the way that it's been optimized. And anyways, just want to say thank you.
Yeah, we appreciate everything Truck Parking Club does for us as a partner, and recommend you guys to everybody.
Awesome. All right. Be well, my friend. Thank you.
Appreciate it.